By Vacult. I'm in the band Vacult. I make bass house, that sort of thing. So yeah. We're also gonna be testing out some bots in the chat. So y'all might get spammed to hell. We'll see. Some links and whatnot, testing that out. So sorry if weird stuff gets dropped in there. Y'all are the guinea pig stream. All right, so today I kind of got like some suggestions from the Discord. Gonna go over like house bass lines. Gonna go over like how I make my really heavy basses with distortion, phase plant, using sine waves. Is it a bit low? I can turn it up. How is that? Better? Worse? Same? Better? Cool. All right. Sweet. So yeah, we're gonna go over like house bass lines, getting them fatty, getting good subs underneath them, getting movement in them, and like getting life in them as well. And then I'm gonna go over heavy bass lines, heavy basses that are also functional. I'm gonna try and keep it to like the sound design that you can actually use. Like it's easy to make like cool sounds, but like they're not very usable in like music wise. So I'm gonna try and keep it to that, and just making thick sounds from the start, and not have to like use a ton of layers and that sort of thing. So I did this just for you, BD Smith. Thick sounds, thicky sounds, not thicky sounds. The sounds of thicky. All right, so I'm gonna start with like house bass lines because they're kind of simple, and then like it kind of lends into like the heavier stuff. Would y'all? I was kind of going back and forth on how I want to do this. Would you? Yes, it's gonna be recorded, by the way. Would y'all rather me try and make a bass line from scratch, or open up a bass line and go through that, or both? Okay, I will. I'll make one from scratch, real fast, and kind of like explain what I'm doing throughout. So I'm just gonna like put a kick in here. Let me know how the volume is too, and within the stream, like the Ableton audio. How's that sound? Sounds pretty kicky. Sounds good. All right. So yeah, when I'm making house bass lines, I usually start with just the kick, because like I can get the kick and the bass going well, everything's happy. So I'm just gonna get rid of these. Just transparency on my bass group, I do have a saturator at 35%, so it might sound a little different if like you'll do the exact same thing I do. And then on my master, cutting off the sides down here, and then just a clipper that's doing literally nothing except for clipping. So, all right. I will use serum because I think y'all have serum more. But most of these things can be like applied to both. Also, sorry if the dogs go crazy. All right, basic baseline. We'll do F because we all like F. Cool. Easy. I like to put these little tidbits at the end there. I feel like it just helps it kind of reset. Also, the bass writing might actually suck, but got that dog. Got those like a ton of dogs. So I mean, with bass lines, I usually use like the fundamental waves, just because my rants about harmonics, we're working with like this area down here, so there's just not a lot going on. So using like crazy waves, like these monster ones, like they're just not, like they're not fat. It's always better just start with like the basics. You just start with a saw. I go back and forth if I like to use LFOs or envelopes more. I've been kind of on an LFO thing lately, but I'll just route this. I usually keep everything like in mono as it goes. Really like this guy, the analog BD Smith. I think that's how you say it. It's made just for BD Smith. And with these, with basslines, you gotta like really pay attention to the phase. So like you can see it's starting in the middle here, so it's starting in a negative cycle. And basic shapes are really annoying because they're cycled slightly off from the rest of them. So like it starts in a negative cycle, and this one, I just lied. Whatever. Basic, I don't know. Never mind. Ignore everything I'm saying about that, but just make sure the phase is right. So like this one, you want to start in a positive cycle. This one's positive cycle. So you see I move that around. And then if you have one an octave up, you can mess it a little bit. And then distort it. It's sounding kind of farty, which is coming from this. Trying to avoid a fart bass. I'll just go with one of these guys. And what I'm hearing for, or trying to listen for, is trying to get like these harmonics to really pop out through distortion. And with house basslines too, I like to route LFOs to like everything. So I like put a little bit on the drive, a little bit on the fat. And then after the distortion, because it's starting to get farty, offers even harmonics. I think so. Tube is even harmonics. I don't remember. I always mix this up, like what tube and tape, even or odd harmonics. I know the tube, like I like it because when you crank it, you get like, I think that is the even harmonics. Yeah. Indigo, I'm sorry to tell you, I barely FM. Also, I FM from noise, so I know. Anyway, distortion, filtered again. Y'all will notice that a lot of my sound design is just distorting and then filtering and then distorting and filtering just over and over again. So you can see we're starting to get like that nice harmonics and movements and all that sort of thing. sometimes doing 1 + 1 works. +1 octave. That, I'll compress it a little bit, touch a multiband. Maybe. By the way, little nuggy, you can click this mix knob and it turns to level and you can turn it down or to the mix. Can you explain adjusting phase stuff like I'm 5? Yes, I would love to. Let me pull up an oscilloscope. Not on the cake. So this is the sound that's coming out of here. If I adjust this phase to where you can see it, maybe it'll go over here. Okay. Just not enough space. So phase, this is where the wave starts. So if you have a wave that's starting on the positive right here, and I usually like to have it start on the positives just so I know most things are starting positive. So that way it all line up well. The next one, if it starts positive, that means these two waves will get added together and it'll create a positive cycle. So if like it starts in the negative here, and this is the same octave, and the same levels going into each other, they almost go away. They cancel each other out. But if they start at the positive, then they double. So making sure the phase of these oscillators is correct, or at least in a spot that you like it, helps. So like when it's +1 octaves, that means this wave is going to be moving twice as fast, so it cannot start exactly the same spot and still get a good result. And it also changes the tone. And if you watch down here, you can see how the wave kind of moves. So that is phase. So when you're fine-tuning something, the only, I'm gonna miss something, 1 sec. Phase interference is only bad. There's not really negative, like a phase interference that is bad, I guess. It's just, it is what it is. So like if you want, like if I have 2 of these things right here and they're going positive at the same time, so that means this wave's gonna be huge and it's gonna hit my saturation even harder. So if I crank this and then I take the phase, it's too cranked. Like it changes how much it's distorting too, because it's hitting that distortion harder. So not really necessarily bad if it's not perfectly in phase. It's just like it changes tone and it changes like total beef. Like your sub, if your sub's out of phase with things, and like there should only really be 1 sub, but yeah, if it's out of phase with stuff, then your sub's gonna be super weak. But like in terms of higher frequency stuff, like the phase is so fast that it doesn't really matter as much, as long as it's not perfectly negative phase together, because then it'll just cancel. And you get cone filtering. But anyway, do you have any other questions about like phase? Did I explain it well enough? When I get to like the really heavy basses too, I'll do more phase stuff, because you can like get really cool distortion stuff when you're messing with the phase. But okay, house bass. Got a pretty dynamic bass now. I'll take I want like a little more punch out of it, so I'm gonna take another LFO that's like really fast. My dogs like house bases too, apparently. And I'll like put it on here. And give it just a little, like a little pop right in the beginning. Might be a little too much. Hear the difference? Just giving it like a little sauce right in the beginning. I'll even do that with like the noise. I'll take this guy and like route it on there. God damn, dogs are really going. You didn't know we have huskies, so I think someone just got home. Hell yeah. Okay, bass sound pretty good. It's kind of too dynamic for me. I know a lot of like people don't really do this in house, but I like to have dedicated subs for house too, because I can make it less dynamic. So I'll have my sub like sustain more. I'm going to phase plant for my sub because it's just what I use, but okay, so I'll show you what it looks like with the sub. So sub's doing that. Not very dynamic at all. Top bass is doing that, which is dynamic. Cutting out low end, grouping these together. And balancing these together. So with this too, with the dedicated sub, these have like the two harmonics already on there, like in the right spot. So then I'll take my top bass. With house basses, it's like finessing the filters just right. This is kind of working. It's not the best. Oh, here's a good reason to phase. So I have on here this macro is mapped to the phase of both of these, so it'll slightly change the starting phase of my sub. So now when I turn this, it'll like change the starting phase of like the sub, but these layers will glue together better. Like now we're starting to get like the nastiness back in there, how we want. I might do a phase plant preset pack, maybe. But yeah, so you can see like this is a good reason for phase, like messing with the phase. At 50 here, it sounds like this. Like it's a lot weaker like that. But now we're getting like some sauce in there. Yeah, all right. More with house basses. Getting movement in them to sound way cooler. You can do this a couple ways. I will add macros to the cutoff filter and the distortion and this guy. This will be movement. I'm actually going to show you a track after this that I did this on, that the bass line's just like way better, but then I'll take that macro and I will slightly change it on different notes. So you get something like this. Versus not having any of it. You can like get cooler grooves when you do stuff like this. Usually I will also have a little bit of widening on my top bass. This is the nice thing about doing dedicated subs, because you can have a like slight widening on your basses. And it gives it a little bit of weight. I'll probably take this down some. Yeah, there's house basses. I will probably show you one that I made that I put a lot more like details into editing. You can also do this movement stuff, like routing it to like the velocity, which I'll show you in the next track that I did that on. But with house basses, it's really just a matter of like making it as fat as possible with usually the phase, using basic waveforms. Sine waves are good if you distort them. You can also use saws. Like at this point I might change it. One of these to a saw or a square. Okay, this is what I mean by the phase of basic shapes, by the way. Positive cycle here, negative cycle on here. So as you scroll through these, the phase relationship's gonna be different, which is really annoying. Bass fat will still have to get clean side chain. I mean, with the side chain, like with this, I route my side chain to a separate thing. Like this is all going to a bass channel which has a side chain on it. This is going to this. This is going to a side chain thing. And I'll route my kick here and I'll separate my lows. So my sub's gonna get a different shape than the highs. Is that what you mean? I'm not super sure the correlation between fat bass and sidechain. Like, if the kick sucks, then like having a sidechain on it's gonna make everything in the low end feel shitty. So that might actually be the problem of why you're not getting like fat bass with sidechaining, because the subs should just go from the kick right into the sub of the thing. Yeah. The point at which this is at is kind of arbitrary. It depends on the key of the song too, like where those specific cutoff frequency is. Like this is F, so probably like higher. And then the 6 dB slope is also kind of arbitrary. If you're noticing like weird phasey things happening because of this cutoff frequency, sometimes making it sharper can do cool things. Which kind of added a little bit of mids if you hear. Yeah, like it doesn't really matter where this is at if it's in this range, and then this also doesn't really matter. Like they all kind of do different things. Kind of changes the tone just subtly. I just start with 6 dB because it's the most gentle and it's not going to cause like any peaks or valleys wherever this is as bad as the other ones, but sometimes those peaks and valleys cause cool things, so just gotta play with it and see if it works better. The shape of the sub is going to be way bigger than the shape of the high one. So if I want my track to pump more too, I'll just bring it way up, because then this is going to be like way steeper. Or just change this too. Does that answer your question about sidechain? Specific tips for... Yeah, I mean, just I think for fat basses, it's just having a good sub underneath it that's not doing much. A lot of times when I'm mixing songs, like the sub is too dynamic. Like it's just this. And it's just too dynamic. So you can use a dedicated sub to create it not dynamic. But these ones aren't gluing the best. The next track I have, the sub's gluing a little better. This one's like sounding like it's got a sub layer to it. And that's just a matter of like balancing it. But yeah, having the sub be more sustained than the top will make it feel dynamic but still be fatter. That's like a lot of dubsteps that way, and they have like the biggest subs, so yeah. All right, I'm gonna show you all the track. It's actually Dylan Augustus's track that I mixed for him. It's somewhere in here. I redid the bass on it, like the bass patch. He gave me permission to show it, so. But I'll show you all an example of what all that is in the songs as this loads. Yeah, key takeaways: phase, don't go crazy, and then route LFOs and envelopes to like everything a little bit, so it has a lot of movement. Like you'll probably see in the next one, the LFOs routed to like 9 things, 10 things. It's also more layers on this one than I normally do for basses, by the way, so yeah, I don't normally do a transient layer like this, but this one I decided to. I'll let y'all hear a little bit of what this drop sounds like. It's a banger. Man popped off. It was a lot of fun to work on, but this is what the bass sounds like. I don't know why I close it. And with the kick, see, I can hear it that way. I don't know where the sub went. One more time. All the scrolling. All right. This is the main part of the bass. Within Serum, it's a lot of the similar things. This one I used 3 voices of unison for the top bit, and yeah, just 1 for the bottom. I like these vintage wavetables. I'll have to find out where I got them again. I know I got them for free, but they're great. I'll probably drop them in the Discord later tonight. But the Juno one. That's what the beef of it is. Both these go into this filter, which is being controlled by this guy here. Some distortion, there's no chorus on there. Compression, filtering, EQ. It's pretty much the exact same as I did in the last one. Let's see, what is this controlling? LFO2. Oh, the drive of this. LFO3. Why did these all in different LFOs? I don't know. I could have just done them all like probably in 2, but it's controlling that noise. LFO4. This guy here. There's another little trick for getting more punch out of basses. You can create an LFO and use this EQ, and you can do like a little peak. It's just a little, obviously very dramatic. Or you can do this one. Just gets like a little snap out of the top. This one, because there was like high end already, I didn't want to use like all the high end on it. And instead of using the macro and routing that to a bunch of things, I routed the velocity here to the cutoff frequency of the, oh god, all right. The cutoff frequency there, cutoff frequency here, and I thought one more thing. Oh, and it's also being routed so you can drag these on these little knobs here, and you can use, it can change the amount that that middle is opening up. And then I just went in and drew in automation for the velocity. Oh, I'm lazy and I don't like opening up MIDI clips to do velocity down here. So I'll put a velocity thing over here and then just do fixed and control it here. It's just, I'm the king of lazy doing stuff. So yeah, it's just controlling the velocity. I'll turn all this stuff off too so you can hear it without. Sidewinders, just give it a little bit of width. Multi-band compression. K-clips, just turning it up a little bit. Taking off the sub. Taking off some of the high end here. And that is like the main beef of it. With this one, I made it pretty wide. It's got a lot of width down here. So when it goes to mono, it's got a little bit of like phasiness to it. It loses a little bit of like beef. So I put a mono layer underneath it, which sounds like this. Here's them together. Mono. And I'll mute this layer. So it sounds a little thinner in mono. And this one is just a triangle wave, sine wave. It's these waves. Doing kind of the same order of things before. There's no compression on them. Just distortion, filtering. This guy's being routed a bunch of stuff. This guy's being routed a bunch of stuff. It's all the same like principles as the last one. I'm making sure like the random's down. And then a transient layer. I don't normally do these on these. I'm not really sure why I did it on here, but it fits. It just look like random does it changes this changes the start phase of the oscillator. So it's going to start somewhere in here, somewhere in there every single time, but not the same spot. So when you turn random all the way down on these, it's going to start right on this line every single time. Here. And you can tell like it changes weight with each hit. Yeah, random's good when you have a lot of voices. Sometimes too, like with basses, I think on this top layer, I have a little bit. Like if you're using more than one voice, you want to do random, otherwise you're going to get comb filtering, because they're going to be slightly detuned from each other, and so it's going to cause comb filtering. But with this one, I had the random, it's only starting on the negative cycle, because it just sounded the best that way. If I had to start everywhere, it's just two all over the place. So I only had to just do it on the negative cycle. I don't know why I chose the negative cycle. It just sounds better that way. But you can tell with this one, like how it changes tone when I move this around. And it changes weight. Like it's very sad there. It doesn't do much. It's beefy there. So yeah, that's random. Detunement, those little lines, when you do random, that's how much is detuning each one. Main one in the middle, two on the side. You can go into global and you can change the different types of, I think it's the panning. No, it's the amount that it detunes from each other. So if you have like a bunch of these, I have it set to super, so you can see like where the lines are there, they're not evenly spaced. Normally it's set to linear, and they're evenly spaced. I have it set to super, and they're not evenly spaced. So you can change like that, and that'll change the character of it. That's super. Here, you can really hear it like this. So each voice is detuned evenly apart from each other. Super, they're not. So super, you're going to get more fighting in the middle one, which can be good, because they're going to be detuned less. Right next to, they're going to comb filter for longer, instead of like being detuned and comb filtering faster, like oscillating together faster. But yeah. I honestly think at 3, I don't think it does anything. But fun little thing to mess around with. If you want to do like, analog sounding stuff, change it to random, and then like, and now they'll be detuning randomly. So it'll be like, it works cool for leads and that sort of thing. Yep, that's that. Top bass all together. A little bit of EQ, cutting out the lows. Multiband compression, and then the sub, which is the exact same sub preset as I did before. With this one, so low cuts mess with phase rotation, which you can use to your advantage in certain cases. Let me pull up, that was giant. I noticed when I was mixing this and looking at it on the oscilloscope, the positive cycle of the sub was way higher than the negative. and I don't really know why. Probably something along the lines in the chain was causing that. And that's going to eat up my headroom. So like my positive cycle is going to clip way faster than negative with the sub. So you can use a high cut, low cut, high pass filter, whatever, low, what I'm talking about. And you can change the phase rotation of this. And it brings it more centered. So that whole like linear phase thing with like fab filter, all that, like it's not necessarily a bad thing to have phase rotation with things. You can use it to your advantage here. And like where this cutoff frequency is matters. So if I pull it down a little bit, it changes. 28 was kind of the sweet spot. And with the whole bass, see, I'm even clipping up there if I take it off. Put it back on. I'm not clipping anymore. So it gives me a whole lot more headroom. So if you have like a song that like, it's just not loud enough, but for some reason it's clipping, and like you're looking at your oscilloscope or something, and it's just like clipping on one end, you can change, it's probably your sub's phase rotation. And you can tell it didn't even change the sound. Kind of does a little bit. But not that bad. Yeah. Phase rotation stuff. More phase. I don't really know why EQs do this, the science behind it, they just do it. It's something with how it delays in the thing. You probably have to look it up, but little trick. You can do the same thing with kicks too. If like the phase of the kick and doesn't want to match up with the phase of the bass line, well, you can try throwing one of these underneath your kick. Like, don't let it touch the sub of your kick, but just bring it up a little bit and see if that helps. It might help. All right, house basses. Any questions on house basses before I move on to like the heavy stuff? Time to go heavy. All right. New project. I'm going to try and make one of these heavy basses from scratch. It's hard. Like, with sound design and like heavy stuff, you just got to get like used to just deleting. Like trying it, deleting it, trying it again, deleting it. Honestly, that was like one of the... I can't remember who told me that. I think Felmax, who does like really heavy dubstep. I was watching a thing with him and he was like, just made like 10 quick basses really fast. Deleted most because they sound like garbage. So, you never really know what's going to happen with heavier basses. Like, you can't go into them and be like, oh, I know what this is. I know what kind of bass I want and just make it. That's just not really how it works. So, just kind of keep that in mind if you're like making basses and they just all are not sounding good. Just keep doing it and eventually one good one will pop out. Like D. Let's do D. Big fan of D. We're going to use phase plant for it too. Alright. I'm going to show y'all how I make my like really heavy ones with sine waves and like distorting and all that. I like to use the analog thing on here. Start with squares. Another analog sine wave. Crank the harmonics and then distort to all hell. This might be loud. Maybe swear. We're too high. My dogs are having a time of their life down there. We were too high. try wavetable. If you have phase plant these squares, it's the fundamental square one. It has the fundamental of the square removed in the beginning, and then which is just a sine wave, and then taken back in at the end of the wave. So when you're distorting it, you can get like really cool stuff with this by adding movement to it. Make a wub. By the way, harmonics on here, you can do this with Serum. First harmonic is just the wave. Second harmonic, octave higher. Fourth, 2 octaves, and then 8. So it's just notes. So you can tune the oscillator to whatever it is. I think the third one's the perfect fifth. To be +7. Like this would be if you were to set your Serum oscillator like 1 and then 7. But when you have a big thing underneath, it becomes a harmonic, essentially. Which is getting distorted. Alright. Gotta make it sound cool. I like to sometimes cut out like this area. I'm gonna distort it more after. Because then the sub will cause harmonics in there, and if you don't, then like the sub is going to create harmonics there, and if they're not already cut out, then it's just going to get layers of it onto each other, and it gets kind of muddy and boxy sounding. Fat Trader. That's how we start. Fat Trader is a lot like if you took the tube distortion serum and you cranked it all the way up to like 100. It kind of does that. And then, kind of the same thing, we're just going to be like distorting, filtering over and over again. Another Fat Trader. Might as well do it again. This one I'll modulate. Sounding alright. Sometimes I'll add like another sub underneath. And that pushes everything into the distortion even harder. You get the vibe. Little reverb. Well, that's kind of cool. Actually. Touchy unison. If you have phase plant, by the way, this little plus or minus thing is the random. It took me forever to figure that out. It's like the random knob in Serum. know it's changing so much every time. That's because of the unison, so maybe it's not going to be the main on that. Put it on here. Yeah, this is pretty much like how I make the heavier basses. It's just using sine waves. Then layers of filtering and distortion. Like I'll open up one of them that I used in the remix for Electric. This is probably gonna be super loud. So yeah, square wave, it's got a little bit of PN pulse wave changing. Fundamental sine on here, I didn't use the fundamental saw, but it's the same thing. I wonder what this is to. So yeah, it goes from a saw or sine wave into, it looks like a square without the fundamental. And that's just distortion, same thing, a little filter. Add movement, chorus for width, saturator, comb filter, which is adding a little something. Filter, saturator, filter, clean it up with some EQ, saturator again. And with this one, I have the an analog saw wave at +7 and 12 harmonics that is doing FM. It's like actual FM on here. Serum does phase modulation, so it says FM, but it's actually changing the phase. So it would be like this. Like that sounds like Serum FM. But phase plant back does actual FM, which most times sounds like garbage, but it worked in here. Those are the chonky basses. You can using a single LFO for things. Well, this patch I use a single LFO. Only sounds like garbage if you don't believe. I agree. You just got to keep persevering. The turd can be polished. Single LFO here because I did. And then multiple here because I wanted to make my life hard. I feel like that is the difference. But, I mean, if you want like a different shape, like I used multiple here probably because I was messing around trying to do different things, but like if you want a transient that's fast, but you still want the shape. I don't like using envelopes on here because they're kind of a pain in the ass, but that's why I do everything mostly with LFOs. But like this one's controlling the out gain and the gain of the sub. So if I wanted that to be like more sustained, I'll still get a pluck from this. Change these to 1. Or I want it to be like that, and then I want this one. So maybe in this case I use the sub, I believe, to push everything into distortion harder. So I wanted the sub to be a little more sustained, but I want the top end to go down. So I wanted to push in for longer, but I didn't necessarily want all the filters to stay open like that, which is what this is controlling. And this one's controlling the volume, which I probably could have done with 1, but. So you can use multiple LFOs. It just, when you start using a lot, it starts to make your life harder though. Like with this, I remember it was kind of a pain in the ass on my track pulls because I had to like get all these dialed whenever I wanted to change something. But yeah, this one, same principle as before. Distort, chorus, just for the width. A little bit. filter, distort, filter, distort, filter, distort, over and over again. Those are the beefy basses. Any other questions now that the dogs ain't barking? Yeah, I don't use crazy wavetables for most of my basses, unlike the heavy ones. I find that they like get thin really fast, and you can just distort and then use filters to create those weird things, like those weird wavetables. Because all those wavetables are just a distorted something and filtered something. So you're just doing that with all of these. You're creating your own crazy wavetables. Just not in here, you're just creating it, if that makes sense. Distort, filter, combo, and process, kind of. Let me use this one. I'll open up a tune. Let me open up the Run remix. Not that bass is from. Y'all are gonna see all my stuff. Where are you? I don't usually do the distort, filter, combo, and post-processing necessarily unless I want to get more sound designy. Like if the sound isn't cool enough. The distort filter thing is mostly to like create a cool sound. With post-processing, it's mostly to like make it sound good and make it fit in the song too. A lot of my post-processing too, I'll like do something and then leave the track and then come back and want to change a little bit of it, and I'll just add to it versus like going back. So a saw bass phase plant dad. Yeah, I mean there's a little bit of changing it. I'll probably have a spot in here where I've used EQ to like tonally change it. No, I'm gonna create a phase plant dad. This is a big project, so I guess I can also show you how I do orchestral stuff with this song too, because we're cruising through. What is missing? Find that wub. I think it was in here. We have no audio because it's muted. All right. Yeah. That is the same wub that I made for this song. Yeah, post-processing this is actually pretty minimal. I added a little bit of side widening. Just make it a little wider. Chorus for the same reason. A little EQ. That's taming those little peaks. So when you're doing these things where like you have a sine wave at like a harmonic like this, you're gonna get these like massive peaks that suck. And so usually it sounds good if you hit the distortion with it because it'll make the harmonics pop out harder, but afterwards you usually want to try and take out a little bit of it because like they'll just be way too much. And then that is pretty much all of it. There's just a little bit cutting out the low end here and then a sub layer, which I don't know what I was doing with the sub on this one. It's like an old bass I made for, I don't know, Don't look at sub on this one. That goes away. But yeah, not really the distort filter thing with post-processing. Yeah, same with this one. I did distort this one again. Let me see what this one sounds like. Another thing. See, I didn't do a whole lot of distortion in the patch itself on this one. It's through Rift, which is going to be my splice version that I need to switch out for. So I'm not going to show you Rift patch on there, but Rift is just distorting and filtering in a plugin. And then some EQ. Whoa. Which is taming those little peaks again. The top one's just like a different harmonic, I think, playing. Which, I guess, Vicky, I don't really do. I think I know what you're talking about with saw bases. And I don't really do saws to make them. Because I think this is kind of what you were thinking, maybe? For saw bases? Or did you have something else in mind? Like a... Saws are funky, because like they have every harmonic at equal... Some W saw sustains. Do you have like a song or someone or like a artist that does those? Do you mean like the old 1788L, like really massive leads? Oh, okay. I wonder if I have any in here that are like that. I know. You don't mean like the big re-spaces, right? Okay, I will just make it in here. I think I know what you're talking about. I'm just gonna get rid of the post-processing on here. Phase plant. Pretty sure 1788L does a lot of their stuff on Serum though. It has like that very tinny sound, but I can try and do something in here. Probably be 2 analogs. I know they do sync a lot. And then distort. Probably need a note. I think it's honestly just pretty basic with this and like a million OTTs in Saturn Saturator. Fun fact, 3 OTTs, a lot of people use 3 OTTs. It's kind of like the sweet spot in dubstep and bass music before it starts to get really bad. You can get like really thick stuff, maybe. Wow, wrong one. What was I even putting that on? Uh-oh. Oof. Alright, 3 OTTs. No, 3 OTTs is a legitimate thing. With a crazy amount of distortion. And if you turn the time up, you'll get rid of that, like... You can put, like, EQs before all of it. Cut out some of those mids. Use sub, push into the distortions. Faster. If this is kind of what you're thinking. But OTT and Saturn, saturator. Your speaker's on fire, sorry. Yep, with these, red is just a color, you know? That's how it goes. Vicky, do you have a song that like I could listen to? And then I could probably break down how to do something similar. It's a little tough, not like knowing totally what it sounds like. Yeah, Indigo, the 3 OTTs thing, if you look up Excellent Sound and Death Pact, it should still be up there, or Death Pact in their infancy did a tutorial with them on how they made one of their like throaty sounds, and they used like 3 OTTs, so it's a thing. Vicky, this better be a song. If you're sending me some wild things.
Liberty Mutual customized my car insurance.
Don't mind Liberty Mutual. Okay. I try to be quick. I try to be quick with it. 30 sounds, yeah, you like 30 sounds, don't you? That's my partner, by the way, so they can say that. I think it's honestly like just saw waves and then using crazy filtering into distortion. Into OTTs. Might help the note that thing. Put a kick under here. A little loop. See if I can recreate it. Oh, we're gonna be a house tempo. 150. 100? Is that mid-tempo tempo? I'm gonna create a simple sidechain. Why aren't we duplicating? I mean, it's gonna be hard to recreate it because I don't know what they were using, but I think you get the vibe though. I'm pretty sure it's just a bunch of saw waves pushed into OTT with a saturator and then filtering before. I'm trying to listen to it real quick again without getting everything flagged. Does that help at all? It's exactly what you think it is. It's just a matter of getting it to sound good. If that makes sense. A little Scotia noise, maybe? No Scotia noise. Cool. Any other bassy stuff? Well, I'd maybe do some orchestral while I have a little bit of time. Fluttery sub, like a fart bass. You know, I'm gonna new set this. Maybe. Like a UK 140, like. I think I know what you're talking about. Yeah. Hamdi's cracked. I have no idea how that man makes what he makes. He makes wizardry, and if I knew what he makes, I'd be living good right now. I don't know what he does. He makes these weird ass noises that sound so good. But I guess you gotta make those like maybe the bass we're thinking of. Try. Talking about like webby ones or like the or like sustain ones. These ones are probably FM'd. With sub has a lot of movement and is played as the melody, kinda. Let me try and just do this. I'm gonna fly through this and just see if I'm thinking the right thing. Probably hope to be at 140. Do you mean more like this guy down here? Like the fart bass? I think that's its actual name. Yeah, but less farty. Okay. I can do that. It's really, really easy. It's a sine wave with noise. Wherever it's at. Noise. And then distorted. However much noise you put in there is how much fart you get. Without distortion. Fart bass. Yeah, the sine wave is pushing distortion in. It's pushing the noise into the distortion. Yeah. There's fart bass. These things are great for like filling up space too. It's really good too. Also, after the distortion, you can put a filter. Put one of these guys in there and make it really big. And you have like all this middle space for like other stuff. You can even like have this guy move a little bit too. Yeah. I mean, really, like, sound design is just like getting creative with filters and distorting. So you can do like, I know this is getting away from what you thought. But this is like putting a big old peak here and then distorting it is just like putting the sine wave in, except you have the harmonics here. And you're boosting up a little sine wave in there and then distorting it. Yeah. Some of these too, I think Serum has, I'll show you in Serum with those that is a little better. Fart bass in here, there's these inner harmonics, which are stereo. So when you distort it, it's got stereo on the high end. And with these two, you can like route the noise only to this filter and then cut off the low end of it before the distortion. I know tube works the best for these on here because like you have that 100% just fart. And the different types of noise you do too will change like the different type of fart bass. Ha ha hamdi. And the pitch on Serum, by the way, this is a sampler, so if you change the pitch, it'll take off all the high end of your noise. So if you don't want too much high end, you can just do that. Yeah. There we go. Hype out this, put a separate sub underneath. Check and span. Sub's pretty happy. Let me make it sustained. See, the sub's like... Actually, let me make it a fart bass though. Why are we not a fart bass right now? Oh. I would use this as my sub if I was going to use something like this. Because this just kind of is a sub. Because like the fundamental solid, it's not moving. It's not moving, it's like, if you're looking on oscilloscope too. It's just a square wave. So like, you only want to use dedicated subs if you have a lot of movement in your basses, or like you're distorting it and filtering it to the point where like you're losing lower harmonics and like it's not like you don't have these in there or anything. You don't always have to use a dedicated sub. This kind of would be the sub. If you distort it and go crazy with like effects, like you put corpus, those types of things on it, then like you'd want a dedicated sub on there. But this is so basic that this could even be just a sub. If that makes sense. All right. Anything else you want me to cover? I kind of talked about doing orchestral stuff. I can do that if y'all want. I plan on doing this till 7, so, or I can go over like leads. Lots of things we can do. What would suit y'all the best? Thicky, all you do is the fattiest of bases, so that makes sense. You'd like to lead? Oh, some lead stuff? Yeah, lead stuff. I'm using faceplant though, because I like to make my leads in faceplant. So I used to like really struggle with leads because I could never make them like cool because I approach them like bases. I'm not leading the stream. Yeah, thank you. But leads, I feel like, are cool when they're in context of something else. So like most leads just aren't that cool on their own. I'm gonna try and do a melody. Actually, I'm just gonna make an ARP. I have not messed with ARP on here in a long time. Or on the new one. Arpeggiate. Do the thing. Actually, I'm gonna pull a progression in because it's gonna make way easier seeing where's my MIDI. Moody Empowering. I don't know what this is. Hold, please. Okay. So, leads. They kind of all suck, but you gotta add texture to them. And that's what'll make them sound cool. And then, like, make them move in ways. So I will change this to free, have it go really slow, and then like just slightly detune it a little bit. That's a lot. Like 0.4. Not have a trigger. Have a trigger some. I swear I know what I'm doing. Okay. And then I'll do another one. We'll do this one up high. And then with these, I will just use things like thermal to add texture to them. Make it plucky, actually. And delays. Before distortion sometimes is cool. Reverbs before distortions. Okay. Just a basic saw thing. You can make them more interesting also by doing random, and if you have phase plant, you can change this bottom, right click this little guy here, go to voice mode, and then independent, and now each voice will be seated with a different random thing. So I'll smooth it out. I'll make this really fast. And now I'm going to map this to cutoff just a little bit, and now each voice is going to slightly open differently. You can also add noise and do the same thing on here. Just a touch of noise, but just make it stuttery. And then take another LFO. Actually, I'll do that. Make it slow. Do like -0.3. So this one will slightly detune in a different way than the top one. Where are we at? And then there's a really cool plugin I found called Spec Ops that adds like more texture to it. And this thing just does a bunch of stuff. It's pretty cool. That's it. You can also do things like add LFOs that are based around the pitch. Maybe. And have it detune on random notes. yeah, leads. It's really just about adding texture. Like using these types of things and then just messing them up, honestly. Leads sound the best when they're like kind of wrong. Like, let me show you a lead that I made recently. Like this guy. I'm just gonna move this. It's just a saw wave. And it's getting randomized, like, it's just messing with things. And another one. Not that one. You can see on the random too, like all these little guys that are popping down here. So now each voice is getting a slightly different filter. You go over for interesting over good, if that makes any sense. What do you mean? To make it interesting, like not synthetic. So when I'm thinking I'm gonna make a good lead, I'm gonna use like a saw wave and make it plucky. Add some voices to it, and then find a way to make it not sound like a saw wave coming out of a computer. So like using multiple filter, like the filters going through differently through here, or like detuning it slowly, making it sound more analog. I feel like leads sound cheesy and they sound not as good when they're like just a straight saw wave, which I hear a lot of. 'Cause like you know it's a saw wave and it's pretty good, but it's nice to listen to. You know? Let me see if I have another one I can show you. This one's got a wild pitch envelope on it. Yeah, I don't know about that one. But, yeah. Don't overcomplicate it with like the actual sound design. Overcomplicate it with making it sound cool, if that makes sense. Like with textures and distortions in that and reverbs. Like get creative in that sense. Not like if you start going crazy with like wavetables for leads, like actual leads, not like lead basses, then like they just start to sound like noise and they're not very defined. That's kind of what I found. But I don't really use wavetables much to begin with. Somewhat, but detuning is a big thing. Yeah. Anything else y'all want me to go through? I think we're about there. It's mostly how I make everything, honestly. Distorting sine waves, detuning stuff. All right, well, I think we'll call it that unless y'all have anything else. Appreciate y'all for hanging out. This was the first stream where my interface didn't decide to kill my computer halfway through, so that's a win. All right, well, appreciate y'all for being here. Till next time. Oh, if you're in San Diego, come to our show on the 16th. We're having a hotkey takeover. I'll be pulling through. Got Patrick Reza headlining. It's going to be a good ass time, so come through. All right. Bye.